What would you do if this company that you love, the sport that you love, kind of your identity, has almost went under at least 5 times? Like, would you keep pushing? Would you still be striving to keep this company alive when it would just be easier to go work for somebody else? It's a question that I kept asking myself going through the Supercross story.
I've got all these employees to where we've got CNC guys, we've got welders, we've got programmers, we've got powder coat guys, we've got guys who are cleaning parts, and had this whole big drastic problem happen. To where I had to end up letting all the guys go.
Please, if you do enjoy any of this content that I produce, the best way that you can support the channel is if you like, subscribe, and share it with other people. I appreciate each and every one of you. I probably would still be doing the videos even if nobody watched them because it's what I love to do. But I am so happy that you guys deem it worthy of your time. So the last episode, we kind of took a little step back, went through the birth to midpoint of Supercross. Now, let's talk about one of the next major setbacks in Supercross's history. And it starts with none other than the first ever carbon fiber BMX bike, or at least one of the first. I don't ever say first ever because every time I do that, somebody's like, "Oh no, this one came first." Anyway, let's get on with it. The SX250 Carbon Disaster, a welded chromoly rear end, carbon fiber top and down tube, bonded to a chromoly head tube and seat mast, one of the first of its kind, designed to reduce weight and increase stiffness. But if you really wanted to sell anything back in the day, it had to get reviewed. So, they took that carbon frame, shipped it off to the BMX magazines, crossed their fingers, and hoped for the best.
We've been working with a company called Battle Mountain Bikes. I watched Battle Mountain Bikes come out with a frame that was part aluminum, part carbon fiber. Carbon fiber had started to become the norm for something with the bikes. And carbon fiber by nature has no half-life, so it's not going to wear out. Where you have a problem with it wearing out is the resin, if the chip, then you start to have issues with it. The carbon itself as a structure, my goodness, it's some of the best materials out there. Originally, the test was set up to where it was supposed to be Kiyomi Waller out at Simi Valley, and it was supposed to be a race test. Somehow, last minute, it changed, and it became a sheep hill test with Neil Wood from S&M, and became more of a dirt jump test, which is definitely not what it was supposed to ever be done with. But, I mean, hey, when you put it out in the wild, people do whatever they're going to do with it. The story I got told, whether it's a true story or not, but the story I got told was that the test went great. Everything was great. Everybody loved the bike. Everything was good. Neil took off for another lap, came back carrying the bike in 2 pieces. So I was like, damn it, we're done. We're over. I mean, a bad test in BMX Plus back then literally could kill any company. I mean, they were the authorities. BMX Action and BMX Plus, they were the authorities. And if they said your stuff sucked, then it sucked. And luckily, the report card that they gave us on that was pretty weird, to where it was like starts A, acceleration A, to where the report card on it was really good until it came down to the overall reliability or something like that. And then they gave it an F because it broke. Mm-hmm. So everybody said it handled great, it rode great, it jumped great, it was the funnest thing to ride, but couldn't trust the carbon. What had ended up happening is right before the test, we had only been bonding the tubes to the lugs. And Hardland Mountain Bikes had come to me and said, "Hey, Bill, we're having an issue on our suspension swing arms where it's pulling off of the lug." Mm-hmm. And done is we've pop riveted it. We've drilled through the carbon, we put a pop rivet in, and then that pop rivet bonds the carbon to the aluminum lug, similar to, the bonding process. But now we've got a little stainless steel rivet that's going to keep it in place and keep it from pulling. He's like, you really need to do that on all your frames. Now, at the time, I wasn't thinking about it, but the rear suspension swing arms had a lot of shear force, a lot of pull force, where the BMX frame didn't have that. But we went ahead and did that. We drilled and put in the stainless steel rivets and did it exactly the way they said it. And of course, where it broke, you could see a crack coming out from where the drill was for the stainless steel rivet and going past the end of the lug, and then you could see the tube fold. We went over to a carbon research lab. We asked them for a little bit of input on some things, and they said, hey, the problem was because of those rivets. You should have never done those rivets.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be calling all of the carbon frames that were out there, exchange them for other supercross frames for everybody because we didn't want to be liable. So we went ahead and did a recall, got a hold of everybody who had one, had them all brought back, had them all destroyed. I really think that the way that that test went down really changed a lot of the way that BMX growth went and could have gone, because I think that had it had a better test and had it had a better outcome and had it been specific that, hey, this is for BMX racing and keep it on the track, I think we would have seen carbon start coming into BMX a lot sooner. And we purposely stayed away from carbon for a long time.
But Supercross persevered again. They put carbon fiber on the back burner for the time being, and rightfully so after that disaster of a test, and they kept pushing. Setback after setback continued to pile on as Bill and the crew were learning the business of owning a brand the hard way.
And it's like, man, what are we going to do? How are we going to keep moving forward with this? I've got all these employees to where we've got CNC guys, we've got welders, we've got programmers, we've got powder coat guys, we've got guys who are cleaning parts, and we were trying to move forward and trying to grow the company. All of a sudden, the building got caught on fire. One of our guys in the back, who was cleaning the parts with MEK before they went into the powder coat room, ended up being back there smoking and set a cigarette down on a piece of wood that they used to use to set the parts on while they were cleaning with MEK. And part of the building went up in fire. And it was like, oh my God. We ended up getting shut down by OSHA and had this whole big, drastic problem happen. You know, to where I had to end up letting all the guys go. And it was 6 months worth of rebuilding. And it wasn't our building. We were renting the building. You know, luckily we had insurance, and insurance was able to cover it, to get it fixed, and to get it brought back up to where it was. But now we've got no production for 6 months. And it was like, what the heck are we going to do? And I went and got a job in the graphic design industry and kept Supercross going on the side. You know, we went from doing 500, 600 frame sets a month down to all of a sudden now we're doing 10 frame sets a month because I needed to provide for my family. I really wanted to keep Supercross going. It took us a while, but we started doing everything in-house.
By the 2000s, though, BMX was kind of shifting. Freestyle went wild, racing went Olympic, and the world got louder. Supercross didn't flinch, though. Bill kept Supercross going, and it was now doing well enough that it was his full-time job. Picture this: the world's bracing for Y2K, expecting computers to implode and send us back to the Stone Age. But while everyone was busy not panicking, something wild was brewing in the shadows. BMX, that scrappy, dirt-jumping kid sport born in vacant lots, was about to get a VIP pass to the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Yes, you heard that right. From backyard ramps to the frickin' Olympics. Now over at Supercross, Bill's got a glint in his eye. He's huddling with the gearheads from Easton, tossing around ideas for a bike worthy of the 5 rings. They've got their sights set on Samantha Coles, one of their factory riders who's about to carry Canada's hopes on her handlebars. The goal? build her something that screams medal contender. Supercross really isn't chasing the clout here. They just want their best work strutting its stuff on the world's biggest stage. It's not like BMX is a small sport here, but with it being the first time ever in the Olympics, it's a big deal. Here's where it gets a little juicy. Easton's pushing for carbon fiber, the wonder material of the era. It's light, it's stiff, it's the stuff of Tour de France dreams. The problem is, Supercross has been down this road before. Bill's got a little bit of trust issues with it, so he pivots. Hard. Instead of carbon, they roll the dice on something exotic. Scandium.
Scandium.
You chose scandium.
Researching scandium tubing, and we feel they make one of the best scandium tubes.
Scandium's the kind of metal that sounds like it was mined on Asgard. Super light, stupid strong, and just rare enough to make you feel fancy. The result, the Supercross S7. This thing was a beast, sleek, responsive, ready to carve up Beijing's track like a hot knife through butter. Carbon? Supercross said, hold my torque wrench, we got this. For Supercross though, was it the right call? Well, let's just say that the S7 wasn't just a bike, it was a statement. Supercross didn't need to chase trends, they built a machine that let Cools ride like she meant it. And in 2008, that's exactly what she did. There's Samantha Cools, Canada's BMX trailblazer, perched at the Beijing start gate. She's astride the Supercross S7, that scandium stunner that we just unpacked. This isn't just any race. It's the Olympics, the grandest stage of all, where every weld, every bolt, and every ounce of that Asgardian metal is about to get stress tested like never before. The S7 isn't just carrying Cools' dream, it's Supercross's shot to prove they didn't just build a bike, they built the bike. Of course, the track's a beast, but the S7, it's eating it up. That scandium frame is so light, and Cools is practically floating over the whoops. In the semis, she clocks a 36.58 second run, fast enough to punch her ticket to the finals. Supercross couldn't have scripted a better coming out party for their new rig. The S7 is not just holding up, it's making the carbon fiber crowd look over their shoulders. And here we are, the final day. 8 riders, 1 shot at glory, and Cools is dialed in. She is quick, and while maybe not the favorite to win gold, she definitely has a chance here. The gate drops, and boom, she's off. Tires clawing dirt, scandium frame flexing just right under her power. But then seconds, chaos erupts. Cools clips wheels with Argentina's Gabriela Diaz, and it's all over. She hit the deck. Hard. The S7 skids across the dirt, its Olympic debut cut short. Cools does limp across the line, but the scoreboard is brutal. It states, did not finish, and ultimately, she got 7th place. So, heartbreak? Sure, but let's not bury the lead here. The S7 Evo didn't just show up to Beijing, it showed out. Before that crash, it was a rocket, proving scandium could hang with the big dogs on the world's toughest stage. Supercross didn't need a medal to make their point. They'd already won the war of ideas.
The S7 was a great bike, but then scandium prices kept going up, and all of a sudden we're like, well, we're back to looking at what can we do to try and be affordable. And we were at a trade show, and the guys from Torre came up to me, and they were like, look, Bill, we know that you're really against carbon fiber. We know that. And we've come up with this resin. It's called a nanoalloy resin. And the nanoalloy resin has microscopic aluminum pills inside the resin. And when it takes an impact, it would normally cause the resin to break and then allow the carbon to shear. These little pills open up, and the pills interlock with each other, and it allows the carbon to actually bend rather than to shear. You can take a carbon tube with a nanoalloy resin, and you can actually crush it like an aluminum can. And it was like, wow, okay, let's give this a shot. Let's give this a try. Let's see what we can do. This was about 2010. It took 4 years for us to go through the due diligence and the testing and everything before we released the NV Black. And that was a full carbon fiber race chassis. And to talk about someone who was nervous on launch day, someone whose anxiety was through the roof, I was like, all right, we just spent 4 years designing, testing, We've got hundreds of thousands of dollars invested into this. The last thing I need is for someone to go out and break it and cause an issue. And, that would just put us out. But I believed in the material enough that I knew it wasn't going to do that. We were proving that, hey, carbon works. And carbon works when it's done right, because there's a lot of cheap carbon out there. Just like alloy and steel, there's different grades. I mean, are you getting a 1018 or a 1020 mild steel, or are you getting a 4130 chromoly? And carbon has the same thing, to where what level of carbon are you going to use? And are you using a Mitsubishi? Are you using a Toray? What we want to do is just make sure we're using the best materials to be able to build the best products.
They doubled down. Carbon fiber, the Envy Black, tech that made the old guard blink. 7 times the BMX public handed them Bike of the Year with the Golden Crank Award. A record scratched into the dirt. But it wasn't about trophies. It was about the kid in the garage, the rider on the gate, the feeling of a frame that didn't bend when the world did.
When we won our first Golden Crank for Bike of the Year, that was a huge honor to me, because that's voted on by the public, and the public said that we had the best bike and that we were the one. That was such an honor to me. That made my day, right? That was an amazing thing. Right at that point, I was like, okay, well, now I've got to work harder, because now they've honored us with this trophy. Now I've got to work harder to show them that we actually deserve it.
30 plus years on, Supercross still stands, not because they chased the spotlight, but because they never left the shadows. Bill's still there, drawing frames, chasing that impossible edge. It's not just a brand, it's a promise. You can build something real, something that lasts, even when everything else falls apart. So what's the most rewarding feedback that you've gotten from a rider about your bikes?
Wow.
It can be pro, amateur, whatever.
That's a real tough question, but I think the thing that meant the most to me, have you ever seen those military coins?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're the coins that are given out in the military for excellence in achievement, excellence in battle. They're very special. They're very hard to get. And I had a rider who just was a rider. He didn't ride for our team, didn't ride for a shop team, but come up to me and presents me with one of those coins that he had been given for military bravery. And he gave it to me, saying that he wanted to give it to us for everything that we had done to put into our bikes to build it better and bigger and better for him. And that now he's a veteran and retired, and he's enjoying his time on his bike. And he had tried 10 different brands, and he was so impressed with what we had done with our bikes that he gave me the coin. I have to tell you, just telling you that story, I don't know how to accept that still, because it was so humbling, because I'm just a dirty little BMX kid who's having fun trying to build BMX bikes for everybody. Here he was in the military, fought in the war, did something that was considered excellence and bravery, and enough that he was able to achieve one of those coins. And he's passing that on to me because he thinks what we do with the bikes is on that kind of level. I disagree. And I didn't want to insult him and not take it. And I thanked him for it. And it holds an honor of pride in the warehouse, to where as you go through and you see some of our golden cranks and some other trophies, you see that coin in there along with the world champion trophies and, Grands trophies and golden crank trophies and all that, because to me, it's a huge honor, and an honor that I don't think we deserve as being a BMX bike company. But that would be the one that I think would be the one that took my breath away the most.
So I did start these Supercross videos with the intention of trying to chronicle some of the longest running BMX brands that are still their own thing, still their original owner. Supercross is one of them. S&M is another one. I'd love to do a video on them. Profile is another one. Like, these brands that I would consider the oldest brands in BMX. Like I said, that category is very tiny. Most people only make it about 10 years in this business before they're moving on to something else, getting out of the business. And I really wanted to try and chronicle the people behind these businesses. Thank you guys so much for coming with me on this Supercross journey. I've got a lot of videos in the works, but if you have any suggestions, pop them down below. If you own a Supercross, let me know which one, and let me know what you think. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
You know, it's never been about, you know, oh, I'm going to make this much money or I'm going to make this. It's all been about, how do I make the coolest shit for the coolest people? And excuse my language, but I mean, you know, we just want to make the best so that when you're out there enjoying your recreational time, which you get so little of as an average person anymore. I mean, whether you're in school, whether you're employed, you get so little pure recreational time where you get to really enjoy yourself. And I want to make sure that anything we do to provide you with a product for that is going to be the absolute best so that you can enjoy that time the best that you possibly can.